Hey everyone, Angelo here, Hollywood filmmaker, greatest screenwriter in the history of the world, recovering homeless guy. Me duele el estómago. I ate so many potatoes last night. I ate 2 potatoes, one I microwaved so long it dried it completely, and it was basically like a giant round potato chip. It was actually kind of good. It like brought out the natural salt in it. And my roommate cooked some potatoes. And then I had some dates and figs. Yeah, I ate a lot. Now my stomach's messed up. It's Independence Day, July 4th. Hallelujah. Gonna try and rest, recuperate, and been doing a lot of writing. And I'm thinking about how I went to this city forum car and the narrow sidewalks. All kinds of issues to talk about with city council candidates at a city council candidate forum, and there were a lot of white supremacist, ancient, angry ghouls there. Chauvinist. It was a mob, basically. And I'm like, wow. Hearing the candidates speak about the issues, it wasn't a debate. It was a place where pre-submitted questions were supplied, and the candidates got to see them ahead of time and give answers, and it was just a chance to hear their views. It basically devolved into the white supremacist elements, the chauvinists, jeering, angrily expressing themselves. Basically, what I noticed, especially as I've been coming out of this latest bout of depersonalization derealization disorder, because I'm trying to self-regulate a lot and get out of it. It's going very well. And I'm studying it, so I understand like the, neuroscience of it, like cognitive rewiring. So I understand the symptoms are not really the problem, it's trauma stored in the body, trapped in the body, that's the problem. And the symptoms are actually the appropriate symptoms for the state my body is in. So convey safety to the body, downregulate my nervous system from all this fight or flight energy and trauma to my social engagement. Is another problem with LA. Too many highways. I'm walking under a fucking highway. Oh, it smells. What I noticed in these people, these cretins, I'd call them, is lots of fight or flight energy, and they couldn't fight and they couldn't flee. So what were they doing? Trying to regulate their emotions and their discomfort at hearing, say, a black woman speak about police violence. Oh, I heard the conversations in the men's room afterwards. These guys, hey, can you believe it? She was talking about police violence. Like, so angry. And it's like, yeah, if you're, first of all, you have all that pent-up energy, you have that conservative paranoia and rage. I've seen it in many people. It's not just a phenomenon here. You don't have a very active life or a good life, and you build up all this animosity by taking in conservative media that just normalizes it and puts anything outside the spectrum of acceptable views of like conservative politics as extreme or radical, then yeah, that seems exactly like the appropriate response to hearing that, or to hearing about the need for climate justice, transit justice. But it showed me, it broadened my view of to a further, realization, which is, this is not really electoral politics here, in that it's not really showing what is going on in the city, because a lot of the people who were there because they basically view the city as their own private fiefdom, and they want to dominate it. The people who weren't there were plenty of decent people, kind people, people I saw, I knew. By the way, I'm not saying all old people were conservative racists there. There were I don't just like saying old, but we're all old, we're all young, it doesn't matter. Like, of age, seniors, whatever you want to call elderly. There were people I recognized there who were great, who are progressives and decent and thoughtful. But that's the thing. When the energy started shifting from a candidate forum to more a WWE match, where it's like the right-wing pro-cop racist candidates were taking swings at the more leftists there, who, to be clear, the local elections like this, they're not really situated as like left or right, because the candidates are right there for the people. They're trying to be like in service of all their constituents. They have their views, but anyways, it just not me. And okay, so here's the thing I was getting at. This room was not reflective of the area that the candidates were running for. It was mainly the people most interested. Plenty of decent people who need and deserve services and support the most were not there. The young, the sick, the old, immigrants, disabled, workers, working class, people who take public transportation, people who work irregular hours, people who are underpaid, people who are homeless. Why aren't they treated as constituents? To be fair, some candidates were trying to treat them. Even the right-wing candidates were kind of speaking positively in terms of giving services to them, but there's always that cudgel, behind that of, what they'd like to do to them. And also what causes homelessness, which is so many factors, but a huge one is high housing costs and high rents. And it showed me just how inadequate electoral politics are to deal with our problems. Yes, I believe democracy is good, but what is democracy and what is it good for? It's like me saying, well, I think bikes are great, but they're also inadequate for certain things. You can't necessarily move all your belongings out of your house with a bike. I don't know, maybe someone's going to get clever with that. I have seen huge bike towing setups for bike karaoke. But anyways, that's what I'm saying. Never rule out an unusual solution to something. But bikes aren't necessarily great for getting across the country. They are, some people do. But okay, generally speaking, they're appropriate tools for certain things. Electoral politics, appropriate tool for intermittently conveying your choice for not just a candidate, but in the interim, what policies you want, trying to, raise the voice of certain interested groups to get whatever legislation you want passed, or initiatives or ballots. But I'm here we are talking about, for one thing, they were talking about rents and rent control and landlords, and even at most, the most progressive candidates talked about, basically acknowledged, from their point of view, that we're going to need landlords, we need good landlords in order to keep people housed, and we need to make sure tenants have rights. And I'm forget landlords. See, this electoral politics, as it is now, won't really be able to push through a movement to end landlordship, end these bozos who hoard housing. That would be an ideological movement. That is something you and I talk about, that we talk about, inform communities that are against it, that sees housing for ourselves, that build communities and build a society where everyone has a minimum standard of care. Housing, quality food, medical care, transportation, time to pursue their passions or leisure. And from there, I'd like it, if people want to monetize their passions or take jobs, they can do them. But it puts abusive employers at a real disadvantage, because now they have to have jobs that are preferable to not working, but being able to sustain your life. You won't necessarily have luxury goods And although I believe a lot more stuff that we consider luxurious should be free, there should be more libraries. Libraries should have more services, all that stuff. Shouldn't have to hit the beg button for pedestrians through these massive intersections that are mostly empty right now. Not really much traffic here. What a waste. Oh shit. I didn't even get the crosswalk, like the little guy, little white guy saying I could walk, so the light didn't last long for me. But just how inadequate electoral politics are, because it can only do so much. And it's going to serve the most interested people, who are often the cruelest, the angriest, the most self-absorbed. And the funny thing too about the cheers and stuff and clapping by these ghouls at this city forum was the more decent, progressive people, they weren't going to do that. Like at least once or twice, like a handful of people or less did. But it's like, what's the point? Like, we're not here to hit blows on anybody. Like, we're here to uplift this whole region. A big thing was the drivers who fucking hate bike lanes and bus lanes. But the irony is, if more people take the bus and ride their bikes, there's going to be less traffic. The drivers, it was so funny. I was thinking, they're all here united, and yet drivers hate each other. They're the ones causing each other traffic. Like, you're the ones doing this. I cannot understand saying there's a problem and not being the one to change it. Like, if you have the ability to. I'm not going to say traffic's bad and then say, oh, but I'm going to keep driving. Unless I have to. I'll be clear about that. But I was one of the many people who drove a car who did not have to. And I think my energy and time are much better spent not only giving lived witness to bike lanes, bus lanes, metro, by riding them and using them and walking. So just showing my face and showing like people, hey, like getting drivers used to driving around cyclists, although hopefully we have separated lanes and all, and not with those plastic bollards people call car ticklers, but actual protection, curbs, potted plants, trees, like concrete bollards. But my time is better spent supporting, advocating, and mobilizing and speaking to people like this. This is not, like, democracy is not necessarily just people talking to each other on YouTube. It can be, or talking to people in person and organizing. Or what I mean, the electoral politics are just that. But this is what's necessary. Coalition building, community building, decency, talking to each other, learning about each other's pain. Doing the cognitive restructuring to recover from my DPDR, which again is going well. I'm learning how much trauma, like I can see it, how much trauma is stored up in so many people when they get irritable, angry, impatient. All this fight or flight energy. Like I said, when people can't fight and they can't flee. So what do? They turn that tension inward or turn it on others. So it's so weak. It's such weakness for people to display anger and hostility and to be impatient and rude. I've heard someone say rudeness is just a weak man's imitation of strength. I believe that. It's just a coward's way. It's like saying, I don't feel well until I get your approval, and I need your approval by making you feel pain, so like I get some dominance over you. And that's aside from just straight up abuse. Workers, man, I've talked about my issues with that. Sexually harassed at work, silenced by HR managers, bullied, spied on, abused, threatened, lied to, manipulated, pressured to lie, intimidated, all connected to my sexual harassment, my reporting of it, and reporting the manager who threatened me and berated me, told me to be less sensitive, because I reported to her that and some other misconduct at work. So there you go. That was just one like exemplification of a little sign on the, what's it say? Okay. What was I saying? That was like one example of this horrid system. But here's the thing, how did that happen? By accident? Randomly? No. Corporate America is designed to funnel away and cover up sex abuse and abuse by managers and abuse in general and misconduct, because that would represent a financial liability to them. They don't want that. They'll claim anything they can to wiggle around it. Even if someone violated the policy. What they did with my manager, those bullshit artists, after my manager threatened me and stuff, they said, well, we found that your manager had kind words about you, so she didn't intend to retaliate against you. That's very strange. First of all, it's just a fake investigation, a fake finding, fake report. It doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, you're basically acknowledging that my manager cannot control her temper. And what set off her rage? Merely me reporting and trying to do the right thing. That set off her rage. She was a massive bully, which is why she also was the defendant in a 53-page lawsuit before me, filed by another employee, alleging vicious bullying, psychological abuse. That's tantamount to torture to me. Just torture. But they wanted to cover up. They wouldn't tell me that. I had to look up the court records for that. And it just like layers and layers and layers to the cowardice and cover-ups. And here's the thing, even if that didn't happen to me, that system is still in place to put fear in workers, because workers have so little leverage. So many people barely have savings. They're spending so much money just to live, to eat, medical bills, rent, their cars. That's why I say go car light if you can, at least like one trip. Go without your car. Take a bus, walk, ride a bike. Do it a few times a week if you can. If you can, get rid of your car. Because this is not just a great benefit to you if you can manage it. Look, I know that's not possible. Some people have 50-mile commutes and there are no sidewalks and, you know, any other way to get around. And it doesn't have to be that far. Like, I wouldn't want to bike 20 miles to work. Some people do that. But you also stand to save a lot of money, which is like leverage against abusive employers. So you know you have a safety net for yourself, since as a society we do not have proper safety nets for people. Welfare is like punishment for being poor. It's hard to get, it's not really enough to live on, you're stigmatized for it. Food stamps, same, and then you're limited in what food you can buy. Like, how absurd is that? Why don't we just make food more abundant if people need it? Somehow we can agree the government should provide roads, but they should not provide food. Like, oh, there's some people who don't necessarily use food. They don't eat. Medical care, housing. So yeah, this was just about the insufficiency of electoral politics and the need for ordinary people to speak up. To speak up about their pain and transform our communities. And one way I've been dreaming of that could make that happen is, imagine if, am I gonna make this light? No. Yes. Imagine if we didn't even wait for, say, bike lanes and bus lanes and stuff to put in. Imagine if half of LA or half your city or wherever just started, just took up biking everywhere. And all of a sudden, all the drivers and elected officials were like, what the fuck? Like, everybody's biking. Okay, we got to accommodate this. Like, we have to create bike lanes and bike infrastructure and bike parking. You know, we have to do all this. Imagine if that happened. How incredible would that be? Now, we don't think to do that because what do we think? Oh, if you want that change, you petition for it, you vote for it and stuff. What if we just did it, like uprooted the process in a way? Or you could look at it as emboldening ourselves to... those beeps are ridiculous. People they're like little children with them. They keep hitting them. Beep, 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 beep. Imagine if we just took the initiative to transform our cities and say, we're not going to wait for you to do this for us. What would they do? And here's the thing. People would just be happy. Drivers would be happy because they'd be like, oh my God, like traffic is so much lighter now that there are thousands and thousands of cars off the road. What you don't want if you're a driver is more people driving. You don't want more people getting out of the bus and driving, getting off their bikes and driving, getting off the metro and driving. So let's do it, everybody. Let's show up, show out, support each other, talk to your coworkers, talk to your friends, share your pain. That was one of my hardest learned lessons in life. The biggest lessons I learned, I would not share my pain. I would not talk about what I was going through. And as a result, I wasn't even sensitive to what I was going through. I wasn't even aware of what was going on in me and my body and my life. I thought whatever pain I may have been dealing with was just normal. Or it was just like nothing matter. Like nothing to be concerned about. So, excuse me. Know your rights, stand up for yourselves and each other, educate yourselves, educate your minds, and sort of challenge yourself and provoke yourself to think differently about what could be better about life. So many people are desperate and lonely and miserable. I know exactly what it's like to be that. Not somewhat, exactly. The time I spent in Annandale, Virginia, about 2 years, those were some of the loneliest days of my life. I absolutely hated every minute of living there. I didn't realize how much of that was the infrastructure there and the way we set up society. I was broke. We had huge roads everywhere. It was like a hostile environment for pedestrians. Not many amenities. I gather it's been improving. But like nobody's out for recreation. Virtually everyone's out because they're going to and from work. They're getting groceries. They're stressed. They're tired. They're driving. Huge parking lots everywhere. And I had no idea. And I was living with a fucking slumlord. Or not with her, but living in her crappy townhome while she was living in a luxurious home with luxury cars in the driveway. So happy Independence Day. Everybody, let's get together and make a better community. Cool. And see you all next time. Let me know what you think. Bye.